Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. My guest this episode is Matthew. Now, he's the host of the worst baseball page, but don't worry, it's not what you think. It's actually one of the best on social media. Has nearly 14,000 followers on Instagram. He provides weekly content where he places players on the honor roll as well as sends them to detention if they do bad. A lot of Yankees go there, like Aaron Hicks and Giancarlo Stanton. Now, we're going to get into all that, as well as have some Yankee talk. He actually follows the Yankees very closely, so we'll get into some current day Yankee news, and we're going to try to keep this lighthearted, because the Yankees right now, we all know the lead in the AL East is dwindling a little bit, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of stuff like that, so we're going to have a little fun this episode as well. And at the end, I'm going to give him a little trivia, some worst trades, worst baseball injuries, worst stuff like that towards the end, so you definitely want to catch that. Before we get into that, if you haven't done it already, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, whether it's on Google or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, iHeartRadio, search Section 420 Talkin Yankees to get an audio version of this program. So it's exclusive content, so there'll be things like wrap-ups and little cool stories and little things I might throw in there that you can't get anywhere else. It's only for audio podcast subscribers, so if you want to be part of that, make sure to subscribe. Again, wherever you get your favorite podcast, to search Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and you'll get that. Now, this is a previously recorded conversation with Matthew, so hope you enjoyed, hope you like it. Make sure you stay to the end so you get the trivia, and make sure you do follow him on Instagram. He's at The Worst MLB. Hi, Matthew. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
That's a pleasure. Now, you are the host of The Worst Baseball page, but I'll say that in a good way. It's actually, it's on Instagram. People can follow you at The Worst MLB. You have close to 14,000 followers, which is pretty amazing. So just give us a little background of when you started, why you started, and why you kind of focus on the worst and, instead of the best, which most people you would usually do the best.
Yeah, so I started the page about 3-4 seasons ago, my freshman year of college. And I didn't actually start it as The Worst Baseball page. I started under a different name, but a little bit over a year ago, I transitioned to calling it The Worst Baseball page. The name more than anything is ironic. I like to think that I am actually the best baseball page out there. But I thought it'd be eye-catching and just kind of funny to call it The Worst. And something that I'd focused on before I had the name was this post that I do on a weekly basis called the Detention Roster, and that's now expanded to a few other weekly posts that I do, where I highlight low light the worst players of the week, or the slumping players. So it's not necessarily the worst players of the week, but it's the guys who should be playing well but are slumping. So your top level all-star players who are having down weeks, and so that kind of expanded into a few other weekly posts. So I do focus on the best as well. I do honor roll, which is the top players of the week, players playing top of their game. And then the few other weekly posts that I do are worst of the week. That seems to be everybody's favorite. That's every Sunday night. I have people submit moments from around the league, and kind of low light moments, funny things, bloopers, just kind of random news stories, like how there were some people engaging in some unsavory behavior at the Blue Jays game last week, silly stuff like that. And then I kind of turn it all into one big compilation. And then I do sour rankings as well, which is like detention, but for teams. And then a couple other posts. I try to keep it all really interactive. I like interacting with the followers. Yeah, it's really about quality over quantity for me. I like having people who are engaged, who come back looking every week for my content, look forward to the different posts, have their favorite stuff that they look for. So yeah, that's kind of a brief little rundown of the page.
And that's how I kind of found you. And I found out, I like it that you are engaging. I see a lot of fans do, engage you in terms of comments and likes, and and it's just a very well-rounded. Yeah, like you said, even though it's called The Worst, it is very well-rounded. Positives and negatives. So again, I think that's part of the main reason why you just get such good feedback and have close to 14,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that my main goal when I started the page, and then what's really built into my my main mission with this page, is to kind of combine the fun side of baseball with the analytics side of baseball, turn casual fans into fans who really know more about the advanced stats as well, but then also show people that baseball can be a lot of fun. With posts like Worst of the Week, it is more silly and goofy. And then I have my posts like Detention, where I really break down, why are these players slumping? What's causing? I dig deep into not just, okay, well, he's batting 124 over the past week. I say, why is he batting 124 over the past week? Is he getting under the ball? Is he having trouble seeing a certain pitch? Is he battling an injury? I really dive deep, and it takes me hours to build these posts and really do the research that it takes to go into it. Like I have a full-time job, but this is like an additional job on top of my job that I do on a 5-day a week basis. So, it's really my mission to kind of involve everybody, be a page that's accessible for all fans, and break things down in a way that gets people interested and more knowledgeable about baseball.
That sounds very thorough there. And again, people could follow you on Instagram at the worst MLB. And actually, there's a link tree there where they could check out some other content you have, as well as your shop there with mugs and hoodies and some cool stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So, before you mentioned that, obviously it's only starting players or all-star caliber players, but how you determine like who's worth talking about now? Obviously, if someone's like Joe Schmo on the bench and no one cares anyway, like who's going to care? That person's like a 1 for 27 slump. So how do you deem someone worthy or not to be mentioned, whether it's honor roll or on the detention, list?
Yeah, so the two are kind of opposite. Like I like using honor roll as a way to kind of highlight some players who you might not be paying attention to so much. So I will put guys on there like big names like Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Jordan Alvarez. This season, Sandy Alcantara has been on there a bunch. So I will highlight guys who deserve it, regardless of what their kind of status with name recognition is. But I also like using it as a way to highlight some guys who are flying under the radar, having really good weeks, seasons, whatever it might be, that you might not be hearing about. Like a couple weeks ago, I put Nathaniel Lowe on there, first baseman for the Texas Rangers, and he's been having a great season. And I didn't even necessarily realize it until I started digging over on the numbers that he's been putting up. But I kind of like using honor roll as a way to draw attention to these guys who maybe are flying under the radar, aren't necessarily all-stars, but guys who maybe should be all-stars. And then detention is kind of the opposite. I look for the guys with bigger name recognition. When I'm sorting through the stats each week, I see a lot of guys, names just like recent call-ups who are not doing well. Guys are plugging in for a starter who's injured who aren't doing well. Nobody really wants to hear about those guys. I like using this as an opportunity to highlight the players who are those like all-star quote level players who are going through rough patches. So name recognition is the first way that I kind of sort through those players. And I think that's the best way to do it, just because you see those guys and you're like, oh, I didn't necessarily realize that they're doing badly, or I know they're doing badly, but why?
So let's say on hitting wise, like what stat do you use to know that someone's, in trouble and not doing well? Is it like, being 0 for like, again, being 1 for 25, or the fact they haven't hit a home run in 2 weeks? Like, what do you determine that this play is not playing up to their capability?
Yeah, so it really depends on the player profiles in the first place, right? Like, let's just use Jordan Alvarez, for example. If Jordan Alvarez hasn't gone deep in 3 weeks, then something's probably wrong. But he wouldn't necessarily make detention if he's still batting like 291 over the past 3 weeks, right? So it's kind of a combination of things. But I like that you asked that, because kind of what I mentioned a little bit before is that I like to combine the more casual, those more basic stats with the deeper analytic stats. So the way that I find the players each week and determine who I think is eligible for the detention is I start by looking at those basic stats, those tangible on-field results. And if those aren't going well, then there's probably something else going on. Sometimes it's luck, right? Sometimes a player's hitting a ball hard, good launch angle, good exit velo, nothing under the surface has changed. And I'm like, okay, well, it's just a stretch of bad luck. But if I look at those stats like batting average, RBIs, home runs, extra base hits, and none of them are coming through, and then I take a deeper look at the more advanced stats. Okay, well, he's topping the ball. He's having trouble hitting curveballs. Whatever it might be. That's kind of when I break down what I think is actually the problem there, because the problem on the field, that's a result of something else that's happening, right? That's not the problem. That's the end result. So I try to break down and find out what the problem is. But the first way that I do that, the first way that I find that problem, is by seeing those on-field results, and if they've fallen, why have they fallen.
Gotcha. And I mean, you yourself, obviously, I'm assuming you're a baseball fan. So which team do you follow? Do you follow a number of teams, or are you just a casual baseball fan? Like, who do you actually root for?
Yeah, well, I'll say I'm anything but a casual baseball fan, but I grew up as a Yankee fan, actually. I was born and raised in New York, so it's kind of cool being featured on a little Yankees podcast here. So Yankees definitely my number one team, but I live in Washington, D.C. now. This is not my house. I am on vacation right now, but I live in Washington, D.C. So my second team, I would have to say, unfortunately, is the Nats. And pretty upset after the Soto trade, but good crop of talent. But yeah, primarily a Yankees fan. But when I am making my content, I try to put that bias aside. Yankees fans in particular, we have a reputation for having our bias. But whenever I'm trying to break things down, I try to keep my fandom aside. I'll put Aaron Judge in detention if he needs to be in there. I'll talk some shit about Garrett Cole if he needs to have that shit talking. But Yankees number one, always through and through, bleeding pinstripes. But I try not to make that too clear on my page.
Yeah, because I saw you had the Yankee backdrop a little bit, and I know I see folks on Judge a lot, good and bad. So I kind of had a feeling, but I was just curious, so I just wanted to mention that. But I understand that you kind of have to be, even keel because you got to, judge people as well. People respect you by calling it like it is, and like Cole having kind of a weird season. Even though he has good numbers, but he hasn't had like an ace-like season this season.
Yeah, exactly. And he's a player who's been very up and down, at certain times we've seen Garrett Cole be absolutely unstoppable this season, and then he goes out and gets shelled by a random team like the Tigers or something. So, if I need to break down Garrett Cole, I'll break down Garrett Cole.
All right. So, and then again, as a Yankee fan, the second half of the season, especially August, they were like 8-19, just been terrible. But I mean, has been other teams similarly as bad, and then maybe these Yankee fans are over panicking a little bit. I mean, obviously blowing a 15.5 game lead in the AL East ain't fun, but are there other teams that also doing it just as bad? And just it just seems like Yankee fans are panicking about their team, but not knowing, hey, other teams do this in baseball as well.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't say that anybody that there's any fan base in baseball that should be panicking as hard as the Yankees are. I think the Yankees' downfall is more predictable than what might be immediately evident. At the beginning of the season, I didn't even have the Yankees making the playoffs, and that might be some just fandom pessimism that crept into my predictions there. But I think the Yankees played above their pay grade until the All-Star break, and now they're definitely playing below their pay grade. I would say that their true level was somewhere in between, and that's basically what we're going to end up seeing as their end-of-season record. I never thought this team was going to be a 120-win team like some people were saying, in like late May, early June when they were on that historic pace. The Yankees are certainly a good team. I think the Yankees are a playoff team. My opinion on them has changed since the beginning of the season. But as a Yankee fan, page I run aside, I am panicking a little bit because I do worry that this slump is lingering on a little bit longer than I would have liked to see it. And I do have real concerns, especially now with that Benintendi injury. I was thinking the other day when we heard that he could potentially be out for the rest of the season, that's a major blow. He started off after the trade a little bit. It took him a little while to heat up, but then I feel like right as he started to really get hitting and be kind of a staple kind of gamer type player, he went out with that wrist injury, and now getting surgery on that, it's going to be tough. We're going to have to be playing Aaron Hicks every day, and that's certainly not good news. And yeah, I mean, Judge is really carrying the offense right now. You got DJ LeMahieu battling injury, Anthony Rizzo fighting some stuff himself. It's tough, and Donaldson having to be consistently in the lineup. There are a lot of question marks. One thing I will say about the Yankees right now, and my one source of confidence, is that the pitching has remained strong through pretty much everything. And Nestor Cortez Jr. will be coming back pretty soon. So the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt in my mind that they're still going to hold on to make the playoffs, probably even win the division. I'd be pretty shocked if the Rays catch up. And to me, pitching is everything in the playoffs. So if the pitching is there and the pitching remains strong, we're getting good starts from JMO, Garrett Cole can play like he has at various points in the season. Nestor Cortez is even 3/4 of the pitcher he was at his best this season. I think we have a really good foundation for making a playoff run. But you can't win if you don't score, and that's my main concern with the Yankees at this point.
No, we should write on the same page. Even getting good performance from like someone like Domingo Germán, like they're in all these games. It's just, I know Friday nights against the Rays got blown out 9-0, but they're pretty much in all these games. It's just the offense has been letting them down. But like you said, in once you get to the playoffs, it's all about pitching. But I just have a feeling what's going to happen is going to, like all these other seasons, like we'll play a team like Houston or the Rays, and like the Yankees only score like 2 runs and they'll lose 3-2, 4-2. Like I just see that happening because again, other people than Judge have to hit the ball, and really, other than Judge, really no one's consistently hitting the ball at all. And again, a lot of injuries, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah. And you mentioned that game Friday night against the Rays. The Yankees were in that game until very late. It was 1-0 for a very long time.
Mhm.
If they had scored, that completely changes the dynamic of the game. It never would have been a blowout where you have Marwin Gonzalez on the hill. Right. And even yesterday they won against the Twins, but it was Chris Archer on the bump. They should have tagged him for 6, 7 runs in the first 2 innings, and it would have been out of reach right then and there. These games are a lot closer. They're giving teams much more of a chance than they need to because the bats aren't coming through, and that is a major concern.
Yeah, and I'm also worried about bullpen, not overall bullpen, but the ninth inning, because like I know Clay Holmes is back, but again, he almost blew that final game against Tampa in the ninth inning. They had runners on second, third, a single there would have lost the game, and he hasn't been the Clay Holmes who we've seen, the first half of the year where he was just untouchable. So I'm still worried about the ninth inning. Obviously, I would not say put Chapman back there because you don't trust him at all. So I would still be worried about closing games in the playoff where the pressure's amped up like 100%.
Yeah, one thing that I've learned from my page is that players go through ebbs and flows. It's a long season, right? 162 games is a very long time to remain consistent. I'm certainly less worried about Clay Holmes than I am about the lineup, especially with guys like Scott Efros. I combined him with Zach Britton. But Efros is coming back pretty soon. Britton's made some rehab starts, so I don't have a ton of bullpen concerns. Anything can really happen in the playoffs, right? Like you mentioned, that high pressure. But my main concern at this point definitely is the lineup.
All right, and I'm sure a lot of Yankee fans will send you messages about, why is not Aaron Hicks like the worst number one like every week? Like what's wrong with this guy?
Hicks, I mean, listen, I don't think the Yankees should have ever given him a 10-year deal. Even though they're only paying him $10 million a year, which let's just take a step back for a second. Paying anybody $10 million a year to do anything is ridiculous. In baseball terms, it's not that much money, but the Yankees contract that they gave to Aaron Hicks a few years ago, 10 years, 100 mil, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Ridiculous. I just don't think Hicks is that great a hitter. To be honest, I think that the problems you saw with Joey Gallo, like getting in your own head and stuff, I don't really think that's the issue with Hicks. I think he's just, on the wrong side of 30 and is not a top 30 outfielder in baseball. You shouldn't be starting in the outfield for the New York Yankees, plain and simple. He's had some good seasons. He has some solid seasons, but has he ever been an all-star level player? No. Has he ever been anywhere close to an MVP level player? No. Instead of spending $100 million on Aaron Hicks over 10 years, the Yankees should have gone for somebody else. George Springer, guys who are going to put up all-star level numbers. I just don't think Aaron Hicks is that great a baseball player.
All right, and obviously earlier this season they were looking to put Cashman, parade him down the canyon of heroes. Now they're all upset at him mainly because that Jordan Montgomery trade, where Jordan Montgomery goes over there, first 4 starts 4-0 with an ERA like 0.34, and we see Frankie Montas here, kind of very underwhelming. But I mean, can you blame Cashman there? I mean, would you see anything out of Jordan Montgomery at that point where he was just going to go off like that in a Cardinal uniform?
No, and I think just as much as you see guys be traded from a small market team, not that St. Louis is a small market team, but a smaller market team than New York, and come to New York and they can't handle the pressure, Joey Gallo type thing. I think Jordan Montgomery got used to playing under the lights in New York, and now he's in a city where, obviously St. Louis is a pretty big market and those fans care, but the intensity is not there. It's not a New York type intensity of playing St. Louis. So, pressure's off on Jordan Montgomery. He's always had great stuff. He's always been a very strong arm. Do I think he's going to continue to post a .49 ERA the rest of his career that he's on the Cardinals? Absolutely not. But I think it was a good change of scenery for Montgomery. Not that he needed it, right? I'd be happy if he was still in the Yankees rotation. But I can't really blame Cashman for that trade, especially now that Benintendi's out. Having Bader come back and probably being able to take some of that playing time away from guys like Hicks, and just kind of be like I mentioned Benintendi as a gamer type player before. I use this term a lot. A gamer to me is a guy who isn't your big strikeout or home run type player. It's not a Giancarlo Stanton. It's not a Gary Sanchez. It's a guy who plays hard, gets on base, takes extra bases. You know, your Benintendis, your LeMahieu's, even your Isaiah Kiner Falefas. I'd like to see him do it a little bit better, but I think Bader's a good addition. I can't be upset with the trade until I see how he comes back. My only concern is he's a speed guy, and he has, you know, plantar fasciitis, and that is that's concerning for a guy who you want to be running and playing really good defense. But you know, Cashman never could have predicted that Montgomery was going to play this well. And if the Yankees rotation was not holding up the way that it has been, and Jordan Montgomery was in St. Louis pitching like a Cy Young, then I'd be a little bit more upset. But again, the rotation is not the Yankees' problem right now. I'll be happy to have that extra outfielder when Bader's healthy.
And this, you know, to close off on Cashman, gut feeling. Let's just say they can't get past the divisional round. You think he's back next season as GM?
Yeah, I don't see Cashman going anywhere. I don't see Boone going anywhere either. I think it's a formula that the Yankees are going to try to trot out at least for another few seasons. Now, if they fail to re-sign Aaron Judge and he walks somewhere else and the Yankees are a third, fourth place team next season, I think we're having a slightly different discussion this time 2023. But as far as next season goes, I don't really see any situation where Cashman or Boone is going to be out for the Yankees.
All right, and okay, we'll switch gears. Going back to your page again, the Worst Baseball page. People can follow on Instagram at the Worst MLB. I've
gotten some pretty good interaction actually. The past couple months, my favorite one being I put if you remember the Christian Arroyo losing the Red Sox outfielder Christian Arroyo losing the ball in the lights about a month and a half ago. And he's just like screaming for help. Yeah, that made one of the top spots in Worst of the Week that week. And he actually saw it and then DM'd me. He thought it was really funny that he made it. And so him and I were chatting back and forth a little bit, and we're planning an end of season giveaway. Actually, we do a post every week called Head to Head, where people submit player comparisons that they want to do. Half of them make sense, half of them do not, and then vote on them. I choose 8 of my favorite and put them on my story for up to vote. Got about 25,000 votes last week, so the interaction with that has been really awesome. And so then once all the votes are in, I have people then guess on my story how many total votes they think were submitted that week on the 8 polls. And whoever guesses the closest each week is entered into an end of season raffle for us. So I've been talking to some different pages, see if anybody wants to partner up on some end of season giveaway type things. And I've actually got Christian Arroyo and I are buddies now. So if you want a chance to win, not that so it's a Yankees podcast, I don't know how many people are going to want signed Christian Arroyo bat, but Christian Arroyo is donating a bat to the giveaway at the end of the season, which I think is pretty cool.
Cool. So you mentioned the giveaway, and also, I mean, you have anything planning for the postseason coming up in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's tough. So a lot of my content really centers around, regular season baseball. So it's going to be tough thinking of some good content, but yeah, we'll figure some stuff out. We'll have definitely some Worst of the Week should continue because playoffs is always crazy time. Should be able to get at least a couple postseason detention and honor rolls out there. So yeah, just hoping for a good postseason. Hoping to come up with some good content to post and continue that fan interaction like we've had going strong for the past few months.
All right, so we're going to go to the Clay Holmes here closing. I got through high technology. I got to post it here. I'm going to throw 2 things at you. You're going to tell me which one's the worst.
Okay.
All right, so we have Steve Bartman, as we know, the Cubs fan who interfered in that ball, and they say cost the Cubs World Series, versus Bill Buckner in the '86 World Series blowing that ground ball. Ooh. Which one is worse?
Ooh, that's tough. Man, I don't know. I got to give it to Bartman there. That's worst of all time. I hate a lot of the time. I don't mind clowning people on Worst of the Week because being a professional baseball player, being anybody who's going to be in that spotlight intentionally, you're opening yourself up to the opportunity to be clowned on the internet a little bit. But poor Steve Bartman, the guy was just at the game with his headset, listening to the radio, and he became one of the most hated people in the state of Illinois, anywhere else where Cubs fans exist. So I got to give that one to Steve Bartman. I feel sorry for that dude.
Yeah, and I think they destroyed that baseball too. So it's like across the street. So next one here now. Which son of a major league player had a worse career? Moises Alou, the son of Felipe Alou, or Prince Fielder, the son of Cecil Fielder, the former Yankee?
I don't know. Prince Fielder had a great career. Just cut short because he was battling some injuries. Gonna be honest, I don't know a ton about Alou. Few years before I started following closely, but yeah, I guess I'm gonna give it to Fielder just because his career was cut a little short. But if I had to say a player who definitely did not live up to the family name, I'd have to 100% give it to Tony Gwynn Jr.
Mm, good one there. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would agree with you. I think if Fielder played longer, he would have had a better career than Alou. Alou was more of a steady Eddie. He played longer, but his power numbers weren't as impressive as Fielder there. So now this might be a little bit before your time there. Well, you might because you're a Yankee fan, but we'll throw it out anyway. Who's the most case of obvious steroid use? Luis Gonzalez hitting 57 home runs in 2001, or Brady Anderson for the Orioles hitting 50 out of nowhere and then for the 96 Orioles?
Well, as a Yankee fan, I feel morally obligated to say Luis Gonzalez because we hate that guy. But yeah, I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah, and that's the only reason he got that hit off of Mariano. Steroids is I blame it on steroids. That's the only reason he got that game-winning hit. The worst cheating by the Astros. We have the infamous garbage can banging or the Altuve electric buzzer on the chest. Which one is worse?
Oh boy, it's so tough. I can't give into the conspiracy and say Altuve because that was never definitively proven. As much as I want to say that and hate Jose Altuve to my core, I will say the trash can banging just because that was completely 100% proven.
Bad trades. Nolan Ryan getting traded from the Mets to the Los Angeles, well, I guess they were the California Angels at the time, or the Montreal Expos trading Randy Johnson to the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, absolutely, Randy Johnson. The big unit put up a good career. So I gotta say Randy on that one.
Okay, and to close it out with the spirit of Nolan Ryan, what was the worst situation? Nolan Ryan pitching with a bloody nose, or Curt Schilling pitching with the bloody sock?
I feel like it's harder. I feel like it's harder to pitch if your foot's bleeding. So I'm gonna say sock.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I felt bad for him. The foot thing was going to rip off, but then again, he was doing it against the Yankees, so I wouldn't mind if the foot came off. So, Matthew, appreciate getting this time. Again, people can follow you on Instagram at The Worst MLB. Again, weekly content, a lot of cool stuff. And I've had a lot of fans on. You're not the worst.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.